Well, hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Firstly, I hope you can hear me okay. I hope everything is coming through, loud and clear, and everyone's good. Nice to see Carl and Phil in the chat already. That's great. Good to see you both. The piano keys, the black keys. Um, yeah, I mean, I think. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. I'd never noticed that before. I'd never noticed that. How odd. Oh, that's a little bit of a. I might have to get rid of that because I don't feel I can morally have a. It wasn't an AI picture. It wasn't an AI picture. It was a. I use Canva for a lot of the art stuff, but this was an actual under their piano kind of category of art. So something's gone wrong there, hasn't it? So I might have to try that. Oh yes, it is live, live. It is live, live, Phil. I am trying to do something live every Saturday. Last week I spoke to Carl. We had a good chat, and I'm also doing live listens to my albums. We've currently heard Meta and Mako, and now tonight we're moving on to The Nature of Solitude. I'm going to go through all of my albums this way, and it's really just an opportunity just to listen to the album and maybe make some comments along the way of because it's sort of revisiting, going back, and yeah, just kind of getting a feel for things. So I had some quite good news today, which will tie in with the album actually. So we're looking at The Nature of Solitude, which was released on September 19th, 2017. Now, this album was really my first album dabbling with long form instrumental music like Mike Oldfield. This isn't an album that was influenced by Mike Oldfield. It was the idea of having two parts of music that were quite long, and yeah, it was my dabbling in that kind of world. And obviously I didn't know at the time, but I would eventually go on and do other albums as well, which were influenced by Mike Oldfield. So yeah, it's my first toe in the water, if you like. But it's also quite a special album because it's has some involvement from some special people. Most importantly, it was mastered by Tom Newman. So Tom Newman actually worked with Mike on the original Tubular Bells. So I got to have his kind of hand in shaping the sound, and whilst he didn't produce it or anything like that, he did the mastering of it and kind of putting his little take on to the final product. He was obviously limited on what he could do, because when you're mastering something, you're taking what's already there, but you're trying to make it sound better. So yes, he is indeed. He is. So I'm going to be slurping tea tonight. Hi, Charlie. Good to see you. And what was very interesting about this album was it was written and composed and produced and finished all entirely on an iPad. Now, I had my iPad and I had tons and tons of music programs and software and all kinds of stuff. And we're not talking loops. We're not talking about it uses lots of loops. Everything was hand played. Using GarageBand on the iPad, and all the different synths and all of the different sounds I had, I kind of hand played, and I just, did it like that. So it's quite a special album because, yeah, it used very minimal recording equipment, just an iPad. It's amazing when I listen back to it to think that that's all I used. Now, there is some live guitar on there. So Justin Towell, my good friend, he did live guitar. So we'll identify the guitar parts in there. But there's something very, very special about this album. Whenever I listen to it, I always feel really proud of it. Now, yes, the sounds maybe aren't the most cutting edge, but there's something creative about my use of the technology that I had. And there's something warm about it. It's got a warm sound that I haven't really been able to capture. Just something about the sound of it that I can't quite capture in other recordings. So there's just something that has a magical quality, magical timeless quality to it. So I do want to shout out. I won't wax too much on this, Carl. But obviously, your help was greatly appreciated in terms of getting Tom on board as well. Um, I won't say any more than that, but I'm sure you know what I'm saying there, Carl. Yeah, it was amazing to get him on board, and I think he really did offer some he really did put a lovely special touch to the album. It was hard for me at first to appreciate and accept a little bit of that because I was kind of used to controlling everything, but yes, that was great. Yes, and Dennis too. I feel like I've lost contact with him a little bit, sadly. It'd be nice to try and get back in contact with him, but we've kind of drifted a little bit, sadly. But when we do the Boy Inside the Machine, I can obviously it'd be nice to maybe try and get him on actually for that. So anyway, we're going to be listening to the album. I may stop it at points to make some comments. It's a bit harder than my previous live listens because they were individual tracks, so it was easier to talk in between, whereas these are two long tracks. But I will be probably stopping at times. But if you've got any questions or anything you want to know about, then do let me know. So this was my second album. So I did Chasing Time first, which is my more classical piece, using real musicians. And then this was done entirely on an iPad. Oh, and the good news, this is what I was saying. A long time ago, my Apple account, where all of the apps were that I bought that I was used on this album, got something happened and it all got locked down and I couldn't get back into it. I tried loads of different ways and it just wouldn't let me in. So I kind of resigned myself to the fact that Apple account just was no more. It was gone. But with that, there were hundreds of pounds worth of apps and in-app purchases of software that I'd purchased over the years. Some really, really good programs as well. And I was saying to myself, do you know what? Now I've got my new Mac and the iPad, I thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if I could not have to buy all of those apps again? So today I officially got word from Apple that I was able to get back into my account, and I am currently, as I speak, my iPad is behind me. My new iPad, well, I say new, I've had it for a couple of years, but when I originally had my old iPad, that one died, the battery eventually went. I'm downloading all of those apps that I used all that time ago for this album in particular. So it's really nice. And I think what's going to happen is any future albums I do are probably going to sort of use a combination of the iPad and the Mac. And hopefully, I don't know, it'd be really nice to get that kind of sound world back again. That magical sound. So anyway, Phil said, what I love about your albums is that they all have an individual sonic identity. Yes, I mean, there is some Mike Oldfield inspired ones, but if you actually look at my discography, they're not all Mike Oldfield type albums. There's some Jean-Michel type stuff. There's some what I'd like to think is very, an original voice, but clearly inspired by different artists. So, but no, I'm really pleased about that because there's a lot of apps that I'm going to be reacquainting myself with after. I mean, we're talking like at least 3 or 4 years since I last had access to them. So that's great, and it means I don't have to buy them all again. So that's perfect. Anyway, we're going to make a start. Do let me know if you have any issues with sound or if you can't hear anything. But I'm hoping that this should just play nicely. I'm going to change the layout here a little bit. We'll have a little me there. Right, so we're going to start off with the Nature of Solitude Part 1. So this you'll hear extensively guitar from Justin. There's quite a lot of guitar on this album, so you will hear guitar, but everything else is me. Oh, let's try and get it right back to the start. So just a quick little check-in just there. So yeah, this is surprisingly simple. The music, very simple flute melody and a four-chord progression, essentially, with like little counter melodies that are sort of slotting around the side. Nice little kind of contrasting bit just there with that like sort of distorted guitar. Quite sort of cinematic at that point. And I loved playing in all like the bass lines. If you listen to all the bass lines, they were really fun to play. Let's see what Carl said. There may be some ambience EQ that I don't remember from the CD, but nonetheless, it's all audible. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it's been a little while probably since you've heard it. Anyway, but the music carries on. Let's continue on. Like I said, I know I don't want to stop it too much. The app that I used extensively for this album is an app called BeatHawk. You may never have heard of it before, but it is a pretty good all-in-one recording type studio app with sounds built in and things like that. And I found it very intuitive, and a lot of it was written using that app. Okay, just going to stop it just before the next section. Now, Tom's just asked, sorry, Phil, I was reading that backwards. Phil's just asked about the compositional process for a large scale work. So basically, the way I tend to work is it's like Lego. I imagine it's like I've got a creative set of Lego. It's not meant to make anything. I just got lots of pieces, and I kind of just fit things together. and then I see patterns, I see things that maybe fit well together, and then I sort of jiggle them together bit by bit. And what's really funny about this album, and this happens a lot for my music, particularly the long form pieces, I'm obviously writing it like Lego pieces. I'm going through that process. And then when I listen to the album back in full, it's like I know I've written it, I know I've created it all, but somehow I don't know how it came to be or how it came together as a final finished thing. And I don't know if maybe that's a common thing for creative people. I think you absorb yourself in the creation of it on a kind of a macro level, and then you have the whole thing afterwards, and it's like you can't quite remember how it all kind of just came together. But it's very much like Lego pieces, I would say. Definitely. Yeah, Justin did well. So we're going into the next section. There's like 4 sections in part 1. This next section is my kind of African drumming section. Okay, there we go. So that was part one of The Nature of Solitude. And the ending I really liked, but I was horrified when I first heard it because basically Tom Newman had uh, EQ'd it so that the piano at the beginning is really like tinny. And then as that end section goes on, it kind of opens out and becomes fuller and richer. But when I first heard it, I was like, what has he done? What has he done to my music? But of course, it sounds amazing and, really, really good. Really, really good. I remember you saying that you were very strict with Justin regarding time of each notes. Yeah, I think when he played on Mako, I kind of gave him free reign on that, and I think it probably sounds a lot more natural because he is obviously a guitarist. But my future albums after that point, I became much more kind of precise, I suppose, about it. Um, yeah, I could probably do with trying to relinquish the control a little bit, but for these albums, I just felt like they needed to be quite precise because I had quite a clear vision in my head really. So we're going to move on to part two now. Part two is my favorite, and I think it's got some of my favorite moments, particularly the end of part two. I just listen to that and it gets me every time because I don't remember it ever happening, but it's just wonderful. The ending, I just love the ending so much. There's a section in the middle which was written and dedicated to my son because at the time I just left the family home, because I just separated from his mum at that point and was living in a shared house, trying to rebuild my life. And he was very young. So this section, there's a section in the middle where it was dedicated to him. It was a kind of I wanted him to listen to it when he was older, and for me to be able to say, look, this is what I was doing, and I was always thinking about you, and I always kind of loved you, even though I wasn't living in the home at the time. But I'll highlight that as we go. It's a longer part, I appreciate it's quite long, but it's very symphonic. It's got some really epic moments, and definitely one of my favorite pieces that I've written. I don't think I've ever quite rivaled it. Um, Remind me of that question at the end, Carl, and I'll give you my answer because he has and he hasn't. So I'll remind me at the end on that. So right, here we go. The Nature of Solitude Part 2. There we go. That was the Nature of Solitude, the second album that I'd written, and yeah, just the big finale there. When I was talking to Phil earlier about how I construct the album, that's the perfect example. That whole ending of not knowing how it just came together. I do remember that the whole guitar sequence that Justin plays at the end, I recorded myself playing and sent to him. So I remember I did all of that. So that was kind of very precise in terms of the guitar part on that. So yeah, I mean that whole ending. Whenever I listen to it, just that I wish I could make those chords at the end with the organ and everything at the end kind of just go on for infinity. And in a way, I wish I'd made it longer, but I just it was enough. It was enough. But yeah, part two is really big sound, and I think the reason why I'm proud of the album is because it was all done on an iPad. No fancy recording studios, no fancy gear. Of course, I had Tom, which did make a massive difference. But in terms of the actual construction of it, it was just me, my iPad, whilst living in a shared house after my life kind of took a different direction. And I think it will always be a very special album because of that. I think it just encapsulates a lot of feelings. And I think the album is very positive sounding because I suppose at that point uh it was like a new door had opened in it was there was a sadness obviously, but for me at that point I think it was a kind of like, well, new horizons, what are you going to do, where are you going to go, how are you going to move forward. And I think the album allowed me to throw myself into being creative, and the end result I was sort of really happy with. And of course I did the Nature of Solitude too, which we will listen to as well. As I said, I'm going to go through all my albums because I think it's kind of quite nice for people who don't know my music very well to get a taster of the albums, and also a little bit of a backstory from it as well. So yeah, and then I know, Carl, you asked about whether Arthur had heard his kind of theme. So he hasn't officially, though the other day I played a little trick on him because I played him 1 minute of um, some of my favorite music from different bands, and the idea was to challenge him because he doesn't like the music I listen to. I we've got very different musical tastes, but I wanted to kind of give him a little snapshot of lots of different music, and I played him some Magma. He actually quite liked Magma, which was surprising. I played him some Mike Oldfield. I played him just lots of different bands, but I also played him about a minute of his theme. But I didn't tell him who it was by or anything, so he has heard it, but he doesn't know it's by me and for him. It's something that I will share with him when he's probably older. At the moment, he's an age now where sentimentality is not really going to wash very well with him because he's 12 years old, going on 16. So I think the sentimental, lovely notion behind it wouldn't really sort of do much for him, and he probably wouldn't want to know. But perhaps when he's an adult, he can hear it, and it will mean something to him at that point. You know, and as Phil says, yeah, composing can be very very cathartic. I think it's yeah, for me, really, music is is just a diary. It's just a diary. It's a way of saying how you feel at a particular time, and particularly when we listen to The Boy Inside the Machine. I was going through a real rough patch during that time, but actually, when you listen to the music, it's quite dynamic and it's quite positive sounding. But actually, there was inner chaos going on, going on all around me. So it's very interesting, definitely. Charlie, I think we write our best music when going through difficult times. Arthur will appreciate this when he's older. Yeah, I really hope he does. I think there's a sort of a sadness a little bit because whilst I'd like to share my music with him, he he's not into my music. He's not really interested in the kind of stuff I listen to. He's just started to kind of get into music a bit more now, but I've kind of listened to the kind of things that he likes, and I think we're in two different stratospheres. So I've always tried not to kind of push my music on him too much, but at the same time I sometimes feel sad because I think, well, he doesn't really know much about my music. He hasn't really heard much. So, but again, I think as an adult, as you say, Charlie, I think when he's older, he might actually want to start to explore the music that I've written, and hopefully that will be something that he'll enjoy. And hopefully if he has children in the future, he can share that with his with his children and my grandchildren. But of course, that's a little bit far down the way. Um, yeah, I wanted to share that one with you tonight because the last two live listens I've done have been two concept albums, and then this one is a much more like long form, quite symphonic, Mike Oldfield sort of style album. And as I said, it marks a really great moment because as I said at the start of this video, or this live, I've managed to get back all of my old software and apps that I used. So I'm going to start revisiting them again, and I'm going to try and see if I can start making some music again. Not that I'm trying to reproduce exactly how I did the Nature of Solitude, but I don't know, maybe just kind of going back to that sort of basics of not having too much and working with what I've got. I think that might be quite nice, kind of going forward. Um, Way of coping with the upheavals of life and processing it. Yeah, absolutely. I think the upheavals of life for me in the last couple of years have been maybe just a little bit too much, in the sense that it kind of squashed my creativity to a point where I just couldn't get myself going, and I'm a little bit like that still. I know that I've got to try and push through this kind of creative block because there are ideas. I do have ideas. I'm just struggling to kind of get myself down and doing things. So hopefully these the new apps that I've kind of rediscovered will help me kind of get back on track with things. So but yeah, thank you very much. If does anyone have any other questions or anything else about the album, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I'm hoping to do another live interview session soon. I've got another composer who reached out to me with the possibility of doing it. I'm not quite sure when yet, but also we'll do another live stream. I'm not sure which album I'll be looking at next. I want to kind of mix them up a little bit. So it won't be the Nature of Solitude 2. It might be like one of the smaller, shorter albums, maybe, maybe Stargazer, something like that, or Going Home. I mean, that's quite a sad one. That's a tricky one for me to hear, but I would like to, I'd like to do it. So, um, yeah, Phil. Yeah, do watch it. If you get a chance. Like I said, I'm enjoying doing this because it's a chance for me to listen back on my albums. I haven't listened to them for quite a while, and I thought people might appreciate like a bit of the backstory behind them, how they came together, and things like that. So, and as I said, I'm trying to do a regular weekly live stream. I'm trying to build the channel up a little bit, and we are building. I mean, I'm getting close to 1,000 subscribers now, so I'm working hard to try and get this channel moving because it's been dormant for so many years. But I appreciate all of your support. I appreciate everyone who's come along tonight and who has listened on. But yeah, we'll finish up now, unless anyone's got any burning questions, but I think we've probably covered everything. So thank you very much, everyone. And if you haven't subscribed, I'm hoping those of you that are here are subscribed. If you haven't, then please do. If you're watching on catch up, then please consider subscribing to the channel as well. And yeah, stay tuned. I will update you what my next live stream will be and when, and then I hope to see you all there. But for now, I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you all very soon. Take care, everyone.